Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to give a few seconds here for people to join in. All right. So, as we get started, my name is Marilyn Mejia Pena. I am Resilient Social Work. You can find me at my website. You can link in my bio, and it will take you to the website. I will be posting some resource. Actually, already did. I posted some resources there on parenting tips and just child abuse, prevention sites that can be helpful in just gaining, again, more access to different resources for parents that we work with, or for ourselves, or for family members. So go check out the website, link in the bio, and go to the resources page. And again, you can find, other stuff there too. But right now, because of Child Abuse Prevention Month, you can find different websites that I added, like the getparentingtips.com, and they do have it in Spanish as well. So some of the websites I post out there are both in English and in Spanish. So they may pop out in English at first, and then you will have to choose Spanish, just so that you again have more resources to share with other parents or with coworkers that can benefit from it. So, all right. So today we're going to be talking about the 5 protective factors um, that we can, as a community, as individuals, as parents, as tia, tío, right, family members, that we can help in preventing child abuse and neglect, because it does take a village for us to raise a child. And I think we fall into the judgmental issues, or the judgment piece of leaving it all to the parents. And it's not all up to them. The school play a role, the doctors play a role, childcare play a role, the neighbors play a role. We all have an important role to play in raising the next generation. Okay. So it's not just the parents' job. Okay. So I want us to kind of get into that mentality that we all are responsible, and we all are investing in our future when we are helping parents raise their children, or providing tools that are going to make things easier for them to raise children um, in a way that is going to be safe, and in a way that is going to be without violence, so that we can end the cycle of violence. Otherwise, we perpetuate it if we are not helpful. Okay. So, what are the 5 protective factors? Number one, and this don't necessarily go in order, they're all important. They all have to be addressed in order for a family to be successful and for children to be raised in safe environments. Okay. So the very first one that I am going to talk about is knowledge of parenting and child development. So children thrive when parents provide not only affection, because affection is needed. We are, creatures of affect, of emotions, and we need touch in order to thrive. Okay, so we need affection. Um, but we also need respectful communication and listening, consistent rules and expectations, and safe opportunities that promote independence. Hello, we have people coming in. Welcome. So, knowledge of parenting and child development is key, because I think that is part of the reason why we have a lot of people in the system and children end up being abused, because we are using old tactics of parenting, right? When we become parents, we don't really get a manual that say this is what you have to do in this situation. There's tons of books out there, but when you're in the hit of the moment and your child is crying and throwing a tantrum of their life, you pushes your buttons that you didn't even know you had. Okay, and you don't know what to do sometimes, and you might resort to tools or to ways of parenting and disciplining that you learned yourself, right? So you parent the way you were parenting because that's all you know, or because you're pushed to do it that way, right? Sometimes our own parents are like, no, you need to do it this way, or the people around us, you're doing it wrong when you're trying to do something different. So we have to be advocates for parents to have access to resources, so that they can learn new tools, because the old tools gets us in trouble, right? Hitting gets us in trouble. It's against the law to use corporal punishment here in California. Um, and sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, you hurt the child without the intention sometimes to hurt the child, because you're so enraged that now you hit him harder than you thought you were going to hit them, right? So we want to move away from the violent tactics and from the fear-based parenting that maybe we were raised with. Okay, so we want to encourage people, and if you work at an agency, you want to provide resources to parents that teach positive parenting skills. And it's not just one program. I've taken a ton of different classes because they all teach you something different. And there are some techniques that may work for someone, and there's some techniques that might not work for your child. So you have to go and you have to look for other resources to help you out. So how do we help them, right? So aside from providing the proper resources and the proper linkage to parenting classes, you yourself can educate yourself, because if you're not a parent yet, maybe you'll become a parent, or you also have nephews or nieces, or you are going to have, to work with children at some point. So you do have to educate yourself as well, and learn different parenting techniques, so that when you are working with parents or you are with your family, you can model the techniques that you learn, so that new techniques get thrown in the mix. Okay. So we want to increase the knowledge of different parenting techniques, and the more the better, because there's never enough. Kids are changing and they're developing, and that's the other piece of this one, that we have to know and have realistic expectations. So in order to have realistic expectations, we have to know what to expect at the different stages of development. And sometimes, because we don't want our kids to be labeled because of stigma, right? We don't want them to be in special ed classes. We don't want them to be um, labeled as crazy, and therefore they don't need to go to, therapy. Or we don't want to be seen as the bad parent, because how come we are raising a child that can keep it together, right? So we blame ourselves sometimes for the behaviors, and therefore we keep them from services that are needed in order for them to thrive. So an example of this is, with speech therapy. Um, Sometimes children, just develop at different rates, and we may need to provide services at early intervention is the best, first of all. So we may need to provide linkage to parents, or say, they're not talking very much. Have you taken them to the regional center to have a referral? Or have you asked the doctor if that's normal, or if he is where needs to be? Or have you even taken him to a checkup, right? So we want to ask the questions of parents when we notice that there's something off, and for them to get the proper assessment, so that the children can get the services early on, and not wait until, they're in high school, and then that never got addressed, and now they're being bullied because they talk funny. Um, and medical conditions also sometimes are overlooked because, again, our culture, right? Or we may blame the child, it's their fault. So an example of this is when children wet the bed. Sometimes it's genetics, right? It's something that is passed down from family, from family. So if you are the unlucky one that got stuck with that, um, and then your parent is super upset because you can't control it, and the point is that you can't control it, right? So because you're asleep. So we can't control what we do when we're asleep. We're asleep. But the notion is that somehow we have control over it, and there's a lot of shame associated with it. That in turn, there's a lot of emotional hardships that the child goes through. And for the parent, it may become abusive because they think they're doing it on purpose. So we want to educate and we want to refer, have you taken them to the doctor? Maybe there's something that they can do to help with that. Or maybe there is some sort of medical condition that they have that is causing them to pee the bed. Or a psychological condition, because it can also be caused by stress. And stress because there's, tension in the family, there may be domestic violence. We don't know, but we want to move from judgment parenting to curiosity parenting. I wonder what's happening. I wonder what is going on there. And as observers, if you are not the parent, whether again you are their case manager, you're working with them in some capacity, or they're just your family members, you also want to be curious and start the linkage process and normalize that these things happen, right? So we want to provide education when possible and provide assistance so that they don't feel ashamed of whatever is going on in their house or whatever disability or delay the child has in their development. So this is important to reduce abuse because if it's not addressed, there's frustration from the parent, there's frustration from the child, and it may result in abuse because they're not able, especially with communication issues. If the child's not able to communicate and they are frustrated, they may start hitting, and then the parent may hit back because they think that that's the way to address it. So we want to make sure that we provide proper intervention, early intervention. We ask questions, we get curious, and we link people with resources so that we can provide knowledge of parenting and child development to provide the support network that they're going to need to help the child thrive. Okay, so that's the very first one. What do we do about resilience, which is number 2? Okay, so resilience of the parents. Um, Parents who can cope with the stress of everyday life as well as occasional crisis have resilience. Okay, so we are all resilient. We all are here, right? So we all did something to make it here today. Um, because life is stressful. Life is not a constant like this, right? It's ups and downs, and sometimes it's crazy all in between. So we have to learn to cope with those in betweens when it's kind of messy. And with parents that come into the system, unfortunately, what happens is they don't have a good support system to begin with. So when they are in the midst of chaos or in the midst of crisis, they have no one to rely on, and they have to kind of do it by themselves, which is unfortunately what causes sometimes for children to be abused or neglected because you can only take so much. So we do need, again, a network of people, and we have to validate parents in their struggle because parenting is great. It's wonderful to have children, and children are awesome. But at the same time, they're exhausting sometimes. And sometimes their needs are very high, and they're special needs sometimes that, it just tires you even more. So we have to make sure that we are asking our parents in our circle, how are you doing? How is it going? Do you have babysitting? Do you have childcare? Let's link you with some childcare. We all, and validating that it is okay for them to take time for themselves. It is not selfish to take self-care time. Okay. And if you take self-care time as a parent, then you are going to have more patience, right? Be more open and be like, oh, okay, they're acting like kids, and be able to kind of get through the day easier as opposed to you're just overwhelmed, trying to pay rent, trying to get to work, trying to get the kids food, and it's just thing after thing after thing, and you don't have a chance to, to just take a breath. Then your stress is super high, your hormones are your stress hormones are super high, and you are not going to be a patient parent. Okay, so we want to reach out to our people that are in our circle or to the clients that we're working with and ask those questions. How are you doing? If they're a new parent, we want to assess for depression, postpartum depression, because that is real and impacts people in different ways. So we want to make sure that they are being taken care of, that they're taking care of themselves, that they have a support system in place. We may become their support system and be their mentor, or for them to hold, we can hold their hand through the process of raising their children. But that's how we can connect with them, right? And how we can support the resilience of parents in this area to help them thrive and to help the children thrive as well. So if you are the neighbor that the children come to when there's stuff going on, that the children shouldn't be exposed to, good for you, right? You are helping protect and helping build resilience in these children. And I commend you, right? That was my story. My neighbor was great. I loved them so much because they were my go-to when stuff wasn't great at my house, right? And they provided a lot of different things. They modeled for me, brother. I didn't have my brother is younger than me. So for me, they have two boys, and they were, like teenagers at the time when I was little. So they taught me how to ride a bike. They did all the things that brothers do, and I thank them for that because they modeled for me what is a healthy relationship with a boy, right? I didn't have that with my dad. So they modeled for me what that was like. And I thank my neighbor and her kids and her husband for all the love and attention they gave me when I needed it. So again, you don't have to even be a family member, right? It can be just an extended part of your circle, of your network, and still be supporting in preventing child abuse or neglect. All right. So the next one is concrete support. So we all have basic needs. We all need to eat. We all need somewhere to sleep. And we all need, something to wear, right? Because we're not a nudist colony. So we need housing and we need childcare. And when parents don't have these resources, it's a struggle. And therefore, it causes frustration, it causes less patience, it causes lack of sleep, it causes depression, it causes anxiety. So, therefore, it's not a healthy environment. Okay. And what we're trying to do by, applying these five protective factors is that we want to provide a safety network and a healthy environment for children to live in and be raised in, and for the parents as well. Because if their parents are okay, the children are okay. All right. So we want to link them with a food bank if they are struggling with food. We want to, if we are family members, we want to ask, maybe buy some groceries if you know that they're struggling. Okay. We want to help them apply for food stamps, for WIC, for whatever services they can qualify for if they are struggling financially. So financial assistance as well. And we want to find the places that can help with housing. Housing is so hard. We have a lot of families experiencing homelessness. And unfortunately, I was just doing a training right now on the impact of domestic violence in parenting. And, it's bringing me to domestic violence creates homelessness, right? Because when the family is seeking safety and they leave the abusive relationship, they have nowhere to go. Or they're couch surfing for a while, and it causes again more hardship, more at risk of abuse because there's more frustration, or neglect because they're just trying their best, right, in keeping their children safe, but there's nowhere to go. So I want you to keep that in mind. And, it helps, I think, with getting away from that judgmental pieces or the judgmental thoughts that we have about parents that unfortunately, end up abusing their children. Sometimes their struggle is so big and they are just doing the best that they can with what they got. I mean, it's not okay to abuse the children. However, where were we, right? Where were we as a society to help them out? So this is the point. We all can do something. And I want you to take also some responsibility, right? All of us need to take responsibility for raising children. So connect, 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 connect. Okay. If you are in an agency where you provide services to families, maybe you want to have some extra, snack bars or something, so that the kids can have when they come and visit, or the parent if they haven't eaten yet. So you want to assess, you want to ask, and you want to provide assistance when needed, and linkage. And, you know, job trainings for kiddos, right? We need kids to get some skills, teenagers, so that then when they become parents, there's some skills that are there aside from college. So concrete support is important. If there's the basic needs are not met, we are not functioning right. Okay, so we want to make sure that they have it at least the basic needs set so that they can have a healthy environment and then able to thrive and do whatever else we need them to do. Okay, as parents. Social connections, we talked about this already. Social connections are embedded in all the five factors because loneliness and being able to reach out to somebody when you're feeling overwhelmed is key in keeping children safe. But a lot of times, I think especially in our Latino culture, we feel with Marianismo, right? Like we have to be las sacrificadas. We have to be the mom that does everything for everybody, and our needs don't matter. Our needs matter. Okay, the needs of moms matter too. So we have to kind of get away from the guilting of self care, and also that you don't have to do it alone. It takes everybody, okay, to raise a child right, or healthy in a healthy manner. So we have to, help increase social connections. Call your friend, call your sister or brother. How you doing? How are things going with the baby or with the kids? So that you stay present and you can also be a role model for those children. Okay, and you stay present in their life because sometimes they need a break from their parents too. And the more connections children have, more positive adult connections children have and interactions, the better and healthier their brain is. Especially if they've undergone trauma, that's one way to address the trauma, is to be able to have positive connections with positive adults so that they can learn how to communicate in a safe way. They can learn different social skills that maybe suffer. They can learn healthy boundaries. So be a mentor. You can sign up to be a mentor for other children. You can also link parents with support groups, with parenting groups, give them ideas of how they can make friends and expand their social circle so that they can expand their support network. Because, like I said, usually families that are struggling and have, an open case with Department of Children's Services, usually their support network is not great. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there, right? They would have reached out to whoever, here, take care of my children for a little bit. I need to take care of myself. They don't have that luxury, right? That a lot of us have. So we want to make sure that we link. And if we have the resources, that we provide centers where they can gather, and then people can make more connections, create a sense of community, and lean on each other when needed. Okay. All right. The last one is social and emotional competence. So, social and emotional competence of children is key in order for them to thrive and grow up as healthy adults and therefore then healthy parents. So, if you endure trauma as a child and now you are a parent, well, that trauma impacts the way that you parent. But you have to be aware of that, right? You have to learn that. It's something that, me and being in this career, and I've been doing this for almost 25 years, I learned in a training. It was in a brain and how how violence impacts a child's brain. That's where I learned, like, oh my God, I know what's wrong with me now, right? And not what's wrong with me, but I understood the reason why I'm so hot-headed. Okay, why I go from 0 to 100 very quickly. It's trauma brain, right? Early childhood trauma exposure creates that, unfortunately. So we want to make sure that parents, when they're 0 to 5, they do have all the tools that they need to be able to be successful parents. So what that means is, basic needs, right? All the other four that we talked about. But also they know the importance of connection, because if they didn't have that when they were growing up, because again, it wasn't modeled for them because they grew up in a toxic environment, they're not necessarily going to know how to do it. So we have to make sure that we are providing resources, that we are, having these conversations, singing to your child is important, talking to your child is important, having the face to face, the eye connection with the child that creates bonding, tending to the child's needs, and being attuned to your child is extremely important, right? So attunement means that you are able to sort of like anticipate what the child needs, right? You know kind of what's going on. Like an example would be like, ooh, they're getting fussy. I know they're getting hungry, right? You are attuned. You are with it. You are present. You are connected to the child's needs. And then you meet the need, okay? Or you don't meet the need, right? If it's a matter of safety, sometimes it's not meeting the need. It's like, nope, you cannot touch the hot stove. You're going to burn yourself. And we protect them. Okay, so, but it's being attuned to their needs. It's being able to play with them. So, play with children. Okay, that is their language. Verbal language is the adult language. But play is the language of kids. So that's why, in the 0 to 5 commercials, right, they have like read to your child, sing to your child, play with your child, because that's what creates a healthy brain. It makes the connections to be able to establish trusting relationships in the future. And if you didn't have that and now you're a parent, well, we have some repairing to do. Okay. And we have to take some parenting classes, go in the internet and learn about it. We can provide resources, again, if you're working in an agency with parents, on child development, on the impact of trauma, the NCTSN National Child Traumatic Stress Network website. I have it on my website. There's a link there. You can go on there. They have a ton of resources just regarding any type of trauma and how to heal from it. So please go check it out and learn yourselves, right? So we all have to educate ourselves so that we can support others. And that is the goal of this talk, Okay, is that we all know a little bit about something, and then we go share it with our network of people, and maybe we get more curious, right? So my goal for you is that you get more curious and you go look stuff up, and then you're able to, provide more resources to your circle, whether it's your family or your people that you work with, so that you are able to, again, make a difference in a child's life, in a family's life, and help support and address child abuse and neglect. Otherwise, right, we don't break the cycle because we are just leaving it all to the parents. It's not all to the parents. We play a role too, the outside circle. We have to be there for them to support them. Otherwise, they'll fail. Okay. So we all are social beings and we need support in order to thrive. And if we don't have it, it's not going to happen. So I encourage you to go and, again, call your friend, call your family member that has kids, and just check in. That helps too. And you modeling, again, just positive interactions with kids and with the adults. It helps in repairing the brain when it has been exposed to trauma, in making the right connections when it comes to relationships and building trust. So, those are the 5 factors. It was social emotional competence, knowledge of parenting and child development, building resilience, concrete support, social connections. So those 5 are key in helping a family thrive and be in a healthy environment. So raising children that are in a healthy environment is key to diminish child abuse or neglect. Otherwise, we're going to be, unfortunately hearing all the stories in the news or suffering ourselves, right? When we see it, but we can do something about it. So I don't want you to feel helpless. We all play a role. So please help out in this endeavor. And then check out my website. Like I said, or click on the link in bio and it will take you there to get the resources and share them with your people. There's some on parenting tips. There's videos there that, again, it walks you through and normalize some of the issues that children have that are frustrating but are normal. Okay. And coping tools too for parents as well. All right. Any questions? Anything? How was this? Make comments in the chat, or also you can email me or you can DM me on Instagram, and let me know how it was for you. So go and do, right? Go and do. We all have to go make a difference in raising children in a way that is positive and in a way that is without violence. So thank you so much, Marilyn Mejia Peña, Resilient Social Work. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for joining.